Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider clicking on the like button and clicking on the bell icon. We'll help you know when we post our new episodes. Posting our video links to your social media profiles furthers awareness, and it's fun. We slashed our prices in our merch store, linked below, so check out the bargains there while you shop. As a member of our human community, remember to adventure bravely and be careful out there, especially in bear country.
Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Today's episode takes us to Placid Lake State Park in western Montana. Yeah, the name sounds peaceful, but recent events here may have you reconsider your vacation plans. The park sees around 60,000 visitors each year, but few know what risks are concealed in the park boundaries. The area around Placid Lake hosts dense forests, rolling hills, and clear blue waters. Known for its abundant wildlife, scenic beauty, and recreational opportunities, Placid Lake draws hunters, hikers, and campers year-round. However, this rugged landscape is also a natural habitat for grizzly bears, an apex predator that has long roamed the mountainous regions of Montana. The area around Placid Lake consists of diverse vegetation, including towering ponderosa pines, Douglas firs, and spruce trees. Lower understory plants such as huckleberries, serviceberries, and wild raspberries offer critical food sources for animals and people alike. Fall in particular sees increased bear activity as they forage to build up fat reserves before hibernation. This makes encounters with bears more likely, as the animals are less likely to retreat from human presence when their survival instincts are heightened. On the morning of November 2nd, 2024, an elk hunter, whom we refer to as Greg, set out to see if he could fill his tag in his freezer. Like many hunters in Montana, he'd spent years outdoors and understood the need for precaution. Montana's grizzly population has been steadily growing, leading to more encounters between bears and humans, particularly during hunting season. This day, however, would bring an encounter that would test his skills and determination to the fullest. While quietly navigating through dense timber south of Placid Lake, the hunter suddenly noticed movement in the brush. Greg hoped the big old bull elk would bust from cover, but was frozen in fear when a huge grizzly bear emerged from the bushes only a few yards from him. As adrenaline dumped into his blood, Greg's mind raced as his options flashed through his thoughts. He knew this bear could be on him in under a second, so hoping any charge from it was a bluff, maybe signing his own death warrant. Now there is no source that indicated whether Greg carried bear spray, but given it was hunting season, it is reasonable to assume he was carrying a high-powered hunting rifle. He may have been carrying a pistol as well, but whatever weapon he carried would be his only defense if the bear came at him. Greg had no time to react to the bear's presence before he saw its paws dig into the dirt and its first bounds toward him. He watched as the energy rippled across the bear's body in slow motion as it tore its path. As if he was moving in slow motion, Greg had just enough time to lift his firearm and fire as the bear got within swatting distance. A resounding clap thundered immediately, followed by the bear's reaction to the impact of the bullet. The bear shuddered and then tumbled only feet from the hunter. Greg stepped back in reaction to the bear's proximity to him. In fractions of a second, the massive grizzly had been reduced to a crumpled pile of flesh and fur. It lay still, but its menacing power and size still struck fear in the hunter's mind. Greg knew he had narrowly avoided severe injury, if not death. He had no injuries, but was shaken by the terror of the bear's charge. He knew that this incident would require the involvement of authorities, and immediately departed to report the facts to them and assist in the subsequent investigation. As soon as he got cell reception, he reached out, and the investigation process started. Following the encounter, Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks was quick to respond. They dispatched officers to the scene, where they confirmed that the bear had died from the gunshot wound. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service officials joined the investigation, as grizzly bears in the lower 48 states remain protected under the Endangered Species Act. Their findings indicated that the hunter acted in self-defense, a critical factor when assessing encounters with protected wildlife. Regarding the reason the bear had charged Greg, there was no source indicating the presence of a cached animal carcass nearby, and given the bear was a boar, it wasn't protecting cubs. Speaking of cubs, our Cubs Here membership on Patreon, link below, will give you ad-free early access to our episodes. And the $3 per month goes a long way in helping me continue to produce educational and entertaining content like this. This incident has added to a growing number of bear-human encounters in the region, leading to discussions about bear management, safety protocols, and the potential need for increased hunter education on avoiding bear confrontations. The Greater Yellowstone ecosystem and Northern Continental Divide ecosystem are two of the main regions in the U.S. where grizzly bears are found, both of which extend into Montana. These populations have grown in recent years, with an estimated 700 to 800 grizzlies now inhabiting the region. Grizzly bears are highly adaptable and territorial, often covering extensive ranges to access food sources. Montana's grizzlies can weigh between 400 to 900 pounds and reach heights of up to around 9 feet tall when standing on their hind legs. The increase in bear populations has been both a conservation success and a challenge. Encounters with humans are on the rise, particularly during late summer and fall when bears are preparing for hibernation. The Montana FWP and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service have worked diligently to balance conservation with public safety, advising residents and visitors on best practices for living and recreating in bear country. The Placid Lake attack is part of a series of recent bear-human conflicts in Montana, highlighting the growing need for effective strategies to reduce encounters. Over the past few months, multiple incidents have occurred across the state. In July of 2024, a 72-year-old man near Columbia Falls was mauled by a grizzly while picking huckleberries. Though injured, he managed to shoot and kill the bear with a handgun. His story sparked a statewide conservation on the importance of carrying bear spray or firearms for protection. In September of 2024, 2 bow hunters were attacked by a grizzly near West Yellowstone. The hunters defended themselves by firing on the bear, ultimately killing it. This incident involved a sow with 2 cubs, emphasizing the danger posed by bears with young. In October of 2024, a hunter in Gallatin County encountered a grizzly while hunting and was forced to climb a tree after shooting the bear. Wildlife officers later euthanized the bear, which had been injured by the hunter's initial shot. Each of these incidents has been discussed on our channel and is linked to in the video article beneath this video for your review. The incident at Placid Lake was the 26th grizzly bear death by self-defense or euthanization this year. These cases highlight the risks inherent in Montana's backcountry and the unpredictability of bear behavior when food, territory, or cubs are involved. The bear attack near Placid Lake is a stark reminder of the delicate balance between humans and wildlife in Montana's vast wilderness. As grizzly bear populations continue to thrive, encounters like this become more common, prompting reflection on safety, preparedness, and respect for nature. After reviewing the facts surrounding this episode, I'm left with a few questions for you. Given the recent increase in bear encounters, should hunters be required to carry bear spray or undergo bear safety training before hunting in bear country? How can wildlife agencies improve outreach to residents and visitors about bear safety protocols? What role does conservation play in increasing bear populations, and how can authorities balance it with public safety concerns? I will gladly read and reply to your thoughts, so post them in the comments section below, and let's talk about it. Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Today's episode takes us to the forests of Sheboygan, Michigan in the 1880s. This is the tragic story of Franklin Devereaux, a logger and Civil War veteran whose encounter with a bear ended in a fatal struggle. While bear attacks in Michigan are rare, Franklin's story is a sobering reminder of the dangers faced by pioneers carving a life out of the wilderness. In the late 19th century, Michigan's northern forests were a vast expanse of towering hardwoods and conifers, teeming with wildlife. These woodlands were vital to the state's booming timber industry, drawing workers like Franklin Devereaux deep into the wilderness. The region around Sheboygan was known for its rugged terrain, dense tree cover, and abundant wildlife, including white-tailed deer, black bears, foxes, and wolves. Settlers and loggers frequently encountered wild animals while harvesting timber or hunting game. While black bears are the only species of bear native to Michigan, aggressive encounters were rare unless the bears felt threatened or were guarding food. On September 4, 1883, 52-year-old Franklin Devereaux set out into the forest near Sheboygan, as he often did. He was hunting for deer while he gathered huckleberries. Despite his experience, Franklin could not have anticipated the life-or-death battle that awaited him. Born in 1842, Franklin Devereaux was a Civil War veteran who served in the 25th Michigan Infantry. After the war, he returned to Michigan to work as a hunter and trapper, but mostly hid out by himself as a hermit. By the 1880s, Franklin was an experienced woodsman, familiar with the dangers of the wilderness and the tools of survival. Now, given the time frame, it is time we address what kind of weapon Franklin was carrying with him. His muzzle-loading rifle required him to pour gunpowder down the barrel and pack it with a ramrod. Next, he placed a slugger ball on a piece of wadding made of paper and pressed it down into the barrel ahead of the gunpowder with the ramrod. The rifle is loaded at that point, but the process required the placement of a percussion cap on the nipple and cocking the weapon before pulling the trigger to fire the weapon. This process could take a well-trained woodsman about 15 to 20 seconds in total, and about the same between firing shots. As Franklin worked over a big stand of berries, he plucked them and put them in a sack he was carrying. The patch was expansive and would likely provide all the berries he could carry, but he only needed enough for the next few days. Carefully examining each berry for ripeness, Franklin slowly worked his way through different areas of the berry patch. Ahead of him, about 30 yards, a large black bear suddenly caught his eye. The bear was looking away from him as it ate berries out of the same patch. Knowing this big old bear would provide a lot of meat, a great hide, and an ample supply of delicious bear fat, Franklin carefully aimed his rifle. Just as he squeezed the trigger, Franklin's rifle roared, and a large cloud of smoke obscured the bear. Now, muzzleloaders in the 1880s had a few significant flaws compared to modern-day hunting rifles. First of all, each load of powder could vary significantly, which affected the amount of power the gun could deliver. The rifling in old-time muzzleloaders wasn't all that great either, which could leave the ball or bullet drifting unpredictably. This meant that each time Franklin fired his muzzleloader, he would have to be closer than 100 yards to the target to be accurate. As you may imagine, Franklin's shot didn't hit the bear where he was hoping. It struck the bear in the flank, which is behind the ribs, and not an immediately lethal wound. The enraged Bruin spun on its heels and dashed toward Franklin as the mountain man pulled the ramrod from his muzzleloader to prepare for another shot. A few days later, Native American Sam Flynn was making his way through the same berry patch. As he entered a small clearing, he could see the duff, all torn up and scattered. It looked like a considerable fight had occurred here, and Sam paused to look around. A few yards away, Sam saw a man sitting on a log with his head resting in his hands. The man was still, and didn't respond when Sam hollered out a greeting. Approaching the man, Sam could see the man's left side, cheek, and legs had been chewed to the bone, and one of his shoulders was out of socket. The man's eye was gouged out, and his gut was torn open. Claw wounds covered his body from head to toe. As Sam touched his shoulder, the dead man tipped over, and revealed the injury that had likely killed him. The dead man was Franklin, and in addition to his other wounds, his skull was crushed. Unsure of what had caused Franklin's injuries, Sam glanced over a few yards to the top of a small rise. A large black bear lay motionless on the rise, so Sam headed over to check it out. As Sam looked the bear over, he could see the wound to the bear's flank, and a large wound to the bear's jaws. Putting the details together, Sam reasoned that the bear and the mountain man had a duel to the death in the berry patch, and both came out on the short end of the stick. It was clear the bear had attacked out of self-defense. It wasn't defending a cached animal carcass or cubs. Speaking of cubs, our Cub Tier membership on Patreon, linked below, will give you ad-free early access to our episodes. And the $3 per month goes a long way in helping me continue to produce educational and entertaining content like this. Franklin's body was buried on the banks of the lake now bearing his name, Devereaux Lake, just outside of Sheboygan. Franklin's grave has since become a point of local interest, marking the site of one of Michigan's most infamous wildlife encounters. The state of Michigan currently hosts an estimated population of 12,000 black bears, primarily in the northern half of the state. Black bears in Michigan can vary in size from 150 pounds to 400 pounds for females, and males tipping the scale at 500 pounds on occasion. In the 1880s, Michigan's bear population was likely more widespread due to the lack of urban development and deforestation. This increased the likelihood of human-bear encounters, particularly for individuals like Franklin, who spent extended periods in remote areas. After reviewing the facts surrounding this episode, I'm left with a few questions for you. Did Franklin's life as a hermit lend him to the added risk of bear attacks? Have you ever eaten bear meat or fat? Does living off the land sound appealing to you after hearing Franklin's tale? I think I'll rely on the grocery store for my food. I'll gladly read and reply to your thoughts, so post them in the comments section below, and let's talk about it. Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Today's episode takes us to a remote location and almost 150 years back in time. In northern Utah, the Wasatch Range was just as foreboding and rugged as it is today. Mount Nebo is the tallest peak in the range, rising an impressive 11,928 feet in elevation, and features steep hillsides, sudden cliffs, and hidden canyons. The forests here consist of pine, fir, and aspen groves, with wild berry bushes flowering and fruiting throughout the summer and early fall. Common animals here include elk, deer, bighorn sheep, and moose. The predators here include coyotes, cougars, bobcats, and black bears. The missing element in the predators here is grizzly bears, but in the 1870s grizzlies prowled the forests, presenting danger to visitors and getting by on their wits as much as their claws. On December 3, 1878, 23-year-old Abraham Powell adventured out on a deer hunting expedition with Abe's brother John Powell and Little John Powell, Jr. Also accompanying the Powell clan were mutual friends, Caleb Rhodes and Robert Snyder. They began their hunting trip on November 23rd and left their families in the comfortable confines of the homesteads and the warmth of the cabins there. They arrived at their destination near Nebo Creek a few days later. Now these fellows were not strangers to grizzly bears. They knew the key to hunting apex predators like grizzlies was to see them before they saw you. On one of his hunting trips, John had seen a big old grizzly bear on a ridge and climbed the parallel ridge to get a shot at it. He fired and missed once, but his second shot stunned the bear, which allowed John to claim its pelt and meat and establish a little more safety in the mountains. He'd reportedly killed 11 grizzlies throughout his life. Venturing into the frozen mountains was not an easy task. The men were not only risking the temperatures, they were surrounded by hostile Indian clans. In 1861, John had been cutting hay with a scythe when a band of 50 warriors encircled his location. They pitched camp on a bluff just above him and fired shots and yelled at him. John clearly had more guts than sense, as he simply walked right into the Indian camp, which went unheeded by the residents. He saw a pole draped with 7 scalps from white men, and John recognized 2 of them as being from his friends. The Powell family were Mormon settlers to the area who had fled Missouri a few years prior due to persecution. Escaping to the western wilderness, the Mormons sought out a place that would allow them to practice their faith without conflicting with other faiths, so they aimed their oxen and wagons toward Utah. The Powell boys and most people in this era were very resourceful and resilient. The winter deer hunting trip pushed the party to its limits, with plentiful snow and freezing temperatures. The men would camp out in the snow beneath the stars as the temperatures dropped and turned the ground as hard as concrete. One night Abraham was jolted awake after a fit during his sleep. A haunting and terrifying scenario had played out in his mind as he slumbered. He dreamt he was being attacked by a mysterious assailant. The villain had ripped open Abe's stomach and gashed him severely before he was startled from his sleep. In the morning, Abraham approached John and told him about his nightmare. John's response set Abe back a step or two, as he had also had a troubled night's rest. His brother indicated that he was burdened with a sense of impending doom and danger coming their way. The next day, John and Abraham were scouting the area for any sign of deer. John had walked to a point about 300 yards away from Abraham to look into the neighboring valley. As Abraham carefully slipped down the icy slope, he heard the sound of brush popping from a few yards away from him. Unbeknownst to Abraham, a massive grizzly boar had seen the hunters as they scouted and took up an ambush point, and Abraham had just walked right into the trap. The grizzly was on Abraham before he could cock and fire his hunting rifle. As John looked over the country, he heard his brother yell, "John! John!" He hurried back toward his brother and after several minutes stood over Abraham as he lay crumpled at the base of a standing dead pine tree. The sight of his brother's injuries was beyond what John could handle seeing. As John examined his brother, he noted that Abraham's scalp had been torn back from just beneath his eyes to the top of his head, essentially degloving his skull. His eyes dangled from their sockets and lay on his cheeks. John knew he couldn't spend a lot of time at the attack scene due to the grizzly's location was unknown to him. John pressed his brother's eyeballs back into their sockets and wrapped his shirt around Abraham's head to slow the bleeding. Abraham asked his brother to get his rifle, and he hurried to fulfill his brother's request. After returning Abraham's rifle to him, John listened as Abraham described how the bear attacked him, then clawed and bit his rifle, trying to break it. John hefted his brother to his back and began the long hike back to camp. After an exhausting hike, John was able to lay his brother on his bedroll around 3 a.m. and began taking care of him. As he stripped his brother's clothes, he counted 47 different wounds imparted by the bear, covering nearly every part of his body. Abraham begged for water, so John filled his hat with snow and warmed it over the coals in the campfire. By morning, Abraham had drifted in and out of consciousness several times and seemed to be fading toward death. During one moment of clarity, Abraham asked John and Caleb to ordain him as an elder in the Mormon church and indicated he would die before sunrise. As the men watched over Abraham, they could see his life was slipping away. Just before breathing his last, he uttered, "Take care of Mother," before his head slumped to the side and his last breath left his body. The next summer, John returned to the area of Abraham's attack near Nebo Creek. He killed a large male grizzly bear there that he was sure was the one that had killed his brother. The huge bear stretched from corner to corner on a hay rack, which is defined as about 16 feet long and around 8 feet wide. In the 1800s, grizzly bears roamed much of the western United States, including the Wasatch Range of Utah. Grizzlies were known to be particularly aggressive when protecting food sources or territory. These bears typically weighed between 600 to 1,000 pounds, with males reaching up to 9 feet tall when standing on their hind legs. Regarding the bear's motives for attacking Abraham, it could be one of two causes. If the hunter stumbled into the bear and surprised it, then it could easily have been a defensive attack. But if the bear had laid up in an ambush position, then it was likely a predatory attack. There were no indications that a cached animal carcass or cubs were present at the time of the attack. Speaking of cubs, our Cub Tier membership on Patreon, linked below, will give you ad-free early access to our episodes, and the $3 per month goes a long way in helping me continue to produce educational and entertaining content like this. At the time, grizzly bears posed a frequent threat to settlers, hunters, and trappers. Grizzly bears in the American West often had large territories and relied on game, berries, and roots to survive, which occasionally brought them into direct conflict with humans. After reviewing the facts surrounding this episode, I'm left with a few questions for you. Did the grizzly lay in wait for the hunters, or was the attack a matter of Abraham being in the wrong place at the wrong time? Do you find it ironic that John had seen his friend's scalps on the poles of the Indians, and then saw his brother scalped by a grizzly bear? Had the bear been shot previously, and that is why it tried to break Abraham's rifle during the attack? I will gladly read and reply to your thoughts, so post them in the comments section below, and let's talk about it.
Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider clicking on the like button and clicking on the bell icon. We'll help you know when we post our new episodes. Posting our video links to your social media profiles furthers awareness, and it's fun. We slashed our prices in our merch store, linked below, so check out the bargains there while you shop. As a member of our human community, remember to adventure bravely and be careful out there, especially in bear country.